Hello. Today, I wanted to talk to you about book planning and timeline information for self-publishers. When you think about it, self-publishing provides a creative control and instant access to readers. And the biggest thing is the openness, right? You want to be open with your readers. Also, this really requires a lot of careful planning. And as a seasoned publisher, writer, and author myself, I know how important it is to organize those properly and really to set those realistic deadlines for yourself, especially when you're getting ready to publish your first book. So here's some advice that has worked for me that I like to share with you, especially if you are a beginner in the self-publishing space. The first thing you want to do is really set yourself with a clear concept and goals. All books start with, when you think about it, all books start from a concept or an idea, but not all concepts are meant to be books. So before you leap in, here's some questions you may want to ask yourself. What am I trying to achieve with my book? Who are my intended readers? And what problem am I solving? Or what narrative am I sharing? Really getting down and nailing these down early will help guide your decisions in the process. So take a couple of weeks just to really submerge yourself into the plan, do the market research, and structure your idea in such a way that it makes sense. Because if you can nail that early on before you do anything else, that is going to get you everywhere you need to be. It's just going to set you up for success. The next is the, creative comprehensive outline. And the reason why it's a comprehensive outline is because you're going to put everything in there. This is your roadmap. This is where the magic happens. If you can nail down your roadmap, it really prevents you from drifting off track. You know how they talk about the roller coaster? You want to stay on the rails. So having your roadmap perfect, it doesn't have to be 100%, but it has to be for you. And this really keeps your words coherent and it keeps your writer's block really to a minimum. And I know for me, that is like so true. So for fiction books, this is where you would break up your book into sections or even chapters with bullet points right beneath it, because each one would be important. This is where you'd put your important points or the arguments. And then if you're writing a fiction, this is where you create those plot lines, those major arcs, or your characters. The third thing I would like to share is set a realistic writing timeline. So many people are like, I'm going to get my book done in 7 days. I'm going to get it done in less than a month. Set realistic goals with your writing timeline. Publishing a book is truly an emotional and intellectual marathon. It's not a sprint because you're pouring your heart and soul out in your book. So you'll be surprised at how long it takes depending on your daily and weekly plan. For example, right, when you think about it, when you're doing like a critical nonfiction, that's about 30,000 to 50,000 words. And that could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months, just depending on how much time you spend writing. When you look at the long fiction, that could be normally 60,000 to 100,000 words. And that could take roughly between 6 to 12 months. Again, just depending on how much time you can dedicate each and every day as you're writing your book. So just a quick reminder to just continue to write on a regular basis, even if it's just 300 to 500 words a day. Schedule your writing time in your calendar and block it out and stick to it. If you allow yourself only 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, stick to it and do it when you see it and it pops up and your calendar sends you that reminder. Number 4, the edit. This is where you need to give time for multiple rounds. You don't get the editing done in one round. It will take multiple. So when I write, I literally just write. I'm not going to edit anything. I'm just going to write, because I used to be a perfectionist and I always wanted to edit as I was writing. And that just made me frustrated. So when you think about your editing piece, when you're first writing, just write. When you get to this part, this is where the time, because when you think about it, this is where the quality control checks for the self-publishing all come into play, and editing separates, right, the amateurs from the professionals. So self-editing, when you think about it, could take, just depending again how much time you have, it could take 1 to 2 months. A lot of people use apps such as Grammarly or Power Word Aid to help identify if there's any errors or mistakes. So this is where you can see your writing with new eyes and ask questions about the flow and structure, and is it in the right structure, logical order. Then you could ask for beta testers, right? If you want people to read your manuscript or read your book before you actually turn it into self-publishing, you can email a copy of it to your friends, families, even to writing groups, right? Professionals, or even beta readers for their feedback to get their insight. And then the other one is academic editing. This is where it could take maybe a month. It could take 2 to 3 months, just depending on if you're hiring a professional editor. So when you write your contract up with your professional editor, this is to develop the developmental stage as well as the line and then the copy of edits. This is an investment that you cannot resist if you are after a perfect product. So if you want your book to be professional, pristine, and 100% on point, this is where a lot of people hire a professional editor. Number 5, style and design. Don't overdo it. You see your book cover first, right? So the wrong design frightens away your audience regardless of the content inside. If your book does not match with the words or what you're talking about, people may not even want to open it because they're going to be like, well, the design of the cover does not match the words that this individual or this writer is trying to portray. So make sure that your cover fits what is in the writing. So when you think about cover design, that can take about 1 to 2 months, just depending, because especially if you hire a professional designer, they are going to ask you a lot of questions, and they are going to do some research, and then they're designing from scratch. So that takes a little bit of time. There's also the interior formatting, where your book, print, or ebook format for your manuscript. It is industry norms where you can just go ahead, pop it up depending on what platform you're using. And then there's individuals, if you hire someone to actually do your editing, that may take a little longer. So it could take 2 to 3 weeks. It could take up to a month, just depending. So this is just for you and what works for you. Some people can do their own cover design on Canva, or they hire a designer. For me, I have my designer design all of my covers and my clients' covers as well. And then for the interior, I have a production team that does all of my interior formatting for me. You can hire someone from Fiverr, Upwork. It just depends on what fits in your budget. The next one is pre-launch marketing, right? So this is where you build the buzz early, like those buzzwords, you get it out, you share it. People, I'm writing a book, and a lot of word of mouth, you post it, you talk about it. So marketing begins even before you write your book, and you can build your community in like 36 months. That's how long it took me to build my community, about 36 months. Some people already have a community, they've never shared it, but they can go ahead and talk about it. But if you really think about the backwards planning, how long did it take you to build that community? So allow yourself some grace. So this is where you build a writer website and accounts. You really provide behind the scenes, cut scenes, or updates to your community. And then this is where you can also create an emailing list. You can use a free source. Everything does not have to cost a lot of money to be a self-publisher. There's a lot of free tools. There's a lot of information available. It's just where you want to go, how you want to be perceived as a professional or just an amateur writer. So it just depends on what it is that you want to do. So a quick tip that I'd like to share with you is reach out to your audience before they miss it. This could be your community, and just remember, your friends or family will be your biggest supporters, or they would be the most critical. So Don't take anything personal. You are the professional. This is what you're doing. Do what's best for you. Number 7, publishing and launch day. Choose whether to publish through Amazon KDP, Ingram Spark, or elsewhere. There's a lot of platforms. There's Nook from Barnes and Nobles. So this is where you want to factor in time. Proof copies. This can take 2 to 3 weeks, depending on what country you're in. There's so much people that are going into self-publishing. Allow yourself some time. This is where you order the actual proofs to guarantee the quality of what it will look like before people start to purchase. Then there's the uploading of the files. This is about 1 week. This is where you do the formatting, the metadata, as well as making sure your book is put into the right category. So this is where you want to double check, because this is what can set you up from being a bestseller or your book not even being seen by anyone. So this is very important that you have it in the right categories. And your launch date is a celebration, right? It's supported by advertising, social media. Even you can do virtual or offline events like in-person writing, in-person book signing. So think about this as your launch day, your celebration. You did it, all the hard work, all the sweat, and all the countless hours to get to the point where you are. And I think that's the most rewarding. And then the last tip I like to leave is post-launch, the long game. And I call it that because publishing doesn't mean the end. Like once you publish it, you have your launch, that your book is done. It does not mean that. It just means that your book starts. So keep marketing with blog posts, ads, and partnerships. Keep asking readers for reviews. Give yourself 6 to 12 months after your book is released to get the word out truly about your book. Make allowances for, for yourself and getting that that solid author and getting your brand over that long term. So that 6 to 12 months, that's the long game. And that's how you establish yourself as an author. So just because your book launched doesn't mean that it ends there. It's just the beginning. So self-publishing is rewarding, but it really does take a lot of effort, patience, and planning. It doesn't happen overnight. It really takes a lot of work, especially if you're putting your own pen to paper and not using an AI-generated book. I really highly recommend. This is just my personal opinion, no one else's, but if you're writing something about yourself, pen to paper, write about it, you write it from the heart. And having been through this a few times, the most important piece of advice is really to just let yourself go and just let the words flow. Break things down into smaller stages. Give yourself deadlines. Yes, set deadlines for yourself and hit them. And don't be afraid to ask for support. There's so much people out there that can help support you. So I'd like to leave you with this. Never forget that any book begins with a strategy. It does. And the resolve is to stick to it. Do not push the boundaries. Make changes when you need to, and simply just go with it. Allow yourself that grace, right? Because one thing for sure, your readers are waiting.